Didn't think you'd make it this week. Come on, take a seat. Let's talk about this week's anime. I have given up. Kanata no Astra was supposed to be this amazing seafaring adventure, only to have it be embroiled with teenage angst. I am just so disappointed. And this week's episode, well, I didn't talk about it last week. We didn't really have enough time. But last week's episode, we had Yoon Hua Lu, the long-haired kind of emo-ish girl whose mom is this like top-tier singer, and we find out about her backstory. She comes to grips with it, she overcomes her past traumas, and then she starts becoming a singer, and everyone in the crew comes together. And in this episode, they arrive on a beach planet where there's like no danger whatsoever. They can just go around and lounge. Successfully, they have implemented a beach episode into a spacefaring series. It kind of sucks that this series could have been all about space. Like, when you write a story about space, there is unlimited potential. But instead, they just go with like the very typical anime archetypes. They honestly could have just dropped the whole space thing and just made them on a boat on Earth, just lost somewhere at sea, or they could have been lost somewhere in the mountains and they could have found this lake. There's really no reason for the space setting. The space setting literally doesn't add anything to the show, which is honestly the biggest disappointment. But I'm still watching it because I'm invested in these kids. I want to see them get home safely. When I first watched this show, I had this theory that this was all kind of set up, right? Because they're in space and there's no danger whatsoever. It looks like there's danger, but they've never been in any real danger. And I always thought that this was some kind of test that the adults set up so that the kids would become a little bit more independent. There's like a crew of specialists out there just waiting for one of them to screw up and they're gonna sweep in and rescue everybody. But no, in the newest episode, we found out that the parents meet up and the parents are willing to give up the search for the kids after 1 month. They're willing to legally declare them dead after only 1 month. That whole scene really debunked my whole theory. Alright, so my new theory is that every one of the parents, except for Ares' mom, every one of those parents wants their kid dead. Every one of them actually has a reason for wanting their kid out of the spotlight. Maybe they're a singer and their kid is kind of like ruining everything for them. Or maybe there's some kind of high up politician who's scared their kids are gonna ruin everything. Like, let's not forget that Japan is the country where a politician murdered his own son because his son was a shut-in. So maybe they're drawing parallels to that. Actually, scratch that. It's probably not that, because this anime, Kanata no Astra, is a remake of a really old anime, and the whole politician murdering his own son thing was actually quite recent. Maybe last 2 years, I want to say. Regardless, in this episode, they kind of reveal the villain. Well, kind of, not really. The villain is apparently Ulgar. He pulls a gun on Luca, even though Luca literally, like moments before he pulled the gun, he's like, "Oh man, I love everybody here. There is no way there's a traitor amongst us. We're all such good friends." And then Ulgar shows up and pulls the gun, and I'm like, dude, why did you have to jinx it? You literally jinxed it, dude. So the way I see it, there's two explanations. Either Ulgar's dad told him to make a hit on Luca, and just in case Ulgar screwed up, he pretty much sent everyone else to die using experimental government technology. Or Luca's responsible for something, or rather Luca's dad is responsible for something, and Ulgar is trying to exact revenge on behalf of his dad, who is the principal of the school. And in Japan, I'm guessing if you're the principal of a school, that makes you kind of a big deal. Either way, all signs point towards a unknown third party that's setting everything up, which is what I dreaded the most. I think I'm gonna keep watching it just to see if they do pull the haha, it was this third party you never considered in the first place. And the fact that they're showing the parents really hammers home the idea that it could potentially be a third party. Please not make it a third party. Don't make it like that. But honestly, it's probably going to be a third party. And I'm going to be there to slam this anime when it does that. But as it is right now, I've just come to accept that it's slice of life. There's not going to be any cool space adventures. The planets they're going to visit are not going to be really cool and exotic. They're just going to look like Earth, but a little bit bigger, maybe flying fish or something. And the characters are going to get to know each other. They're going to eat food. They're going to cook. They're going to talk about romance and love. Oh yeah, in this episode, they talk about romance between Ares and Kanata, which I thought was okay. I mean, some rom-com, why not throw it in there at this point? We don't have any epic space battles anyway, so we might as well have some rom-com action. Alright, enough about that. Let's talk about the next anime. Let's talk about Maou-sama Retry and Arifureta, both of which are isekais and both of which have overpowered main characters. But in Arifureta's case, they do a lot of action scenes, whereas Maou-sama Retry really focuses on the slice of life, the slapstick comedy, the butt jokes, the lolly fan service, you know, the stuff that people actually care about if you have a really low budget. So far, I think Maou-sama Retry is definitely way more entertaining than Arifureta, which sucks because Arifureta should technically be more entertaining as there's way more action, there's firearm action, there's a cute lolly, he bangs the cute lolly, he's the Alpha Chad Isekai MC we've been waiting for so long. But the problem with Arifureta is the budget is so low. The budget is like on par with Maou-sama Retry, but in Maou-sama Retry, they know their budget's low, so they don't focus on the action scenes at all. The action scenes are absolutely horrid. They make a few references to Gochumon wa usagi desu ka, is your order a rabbit? And they draw attention to the fact that all the bunny girls end their sentence with pion or usa. Really self-aware jokes. You know, enjoyable stuff that doesn't require great animation. But Arifureta, I want to like this show. It has all the makings of a show I would enjoy. But the timing, the budget, none of it is there. The first 4 episodes are all action episodes. Our main character is exploring the dungeon, he meets a lolly, there's really no downtime. They're always fighting, they're always running from monsters, which would explain why all the monsters are CGI. Not to mention when he fires his gun, I'm expecting a good kick, like a good boom when he fires his gun. A good example would be Hellsing Ultimate. When they fire the guns in that show, you can feel the impact that the gun is putting on the guy's arm because the recoil is insane. But because he fires like these laser beams out of his pistol and the laser beams kind of just bounce off, you don't really feel the strength of his gun. You don't know how strong his opponent is. It's honestly really lackluster. And in the episode, they do that thing where they have a sniper rifle wrapped up in cloth. Very typical anime trope. They've done it also in Gurren Lagann with Yoko's sniper rifle. And in a lot of scenes where it's wrapped up in cloth, they pull the sniper rifle up so it's pointing in the air, and then the cloth slowly drops off. The cloth unravels itself. Very classic anime scene. And then they point the gun forward. But they didn't have the budget to do that scene. So what they did was they pulled the gun up, and then the cloth kind of stop motion slowly falls off, and that part was so jarring. And I would give this show a pass if no other show out there did this, but there are so many action shows out there where they have done that scene. That scene is done in so many action shows, and I guess they're maybe paying homage to that, but since they don't have the budget for it, it's like a stop motion cloth coming off the sniper rifle, and I'm like, okay, fine, just shoot the sniper rifle, maybe we'll see like the bullet travel and we'll get some bullet time action. But no, he shoots the sniper, and instead of shooting a bullet where we can like follow the bullet's trajectory, maybe a High School of the Dead type deal where we can follow the bullet, maybe get some loot scenes and have the bullet pierce the snake's skin, but no, he fires a giant laser beam that covers like half the screen with the sniper rifle. It's like a Marvel vs. Capcom Ultimate Attack or something. The show is taking itself so seriously, and the budget isn't there to do it justice. That's the problem. The show could be good. The characters have good motivation. You know, she's getting PTSD from the time she was locked up. The animation is just so bad. It just makes it so hard for me to just get into this show. It's just so hard for me to empathize with these characters when they're fighting CGI giant snakes and CGI monsters, and the gun has no kick. If they had a decent budget, think of all the things they could have done in the first 4 episodes. Think of how good the action scenes could have been. Maou-sama Retry works because it doesn't need to be carried by the action scenes. It can just be carried by fan service and carried by, you know, stupid humor. But in Arifureta, it's a serious show, and they're trying to take themselves seriously. And if you're trying to take yourself seriously, you need some good budget so I can take the show seriously. But if you're fighting CGI snakes and CGI monsters all the time, then it's so hard for me to take this show seriously because I'm taken out of it. The illusion is shattered every time the monster appears on screen. At least Kimetsu no Yaiba, they do CGI all the time, but their CGI doesn't take me out of it because they hide the CGI. They make an attempt to hide the CGI and use it there just for more fluid action scenes. But in this show, they don't even hide the CGI. They just have this really crappy CGI clash with the animation style, and it really sucks. And to make matters worse, if you want to watch a show with a guy with red eyes and white hair and who's super edgy and who's protecting a lolly, then look no further than Tuaru Kagaku no Accelerator. Same white hair, same red eyes, same edgy tone, who has a way better voice actor, by the way, and has the budget to support at least decent action scenes that don't pull me out of the illusion every 5 seconds. Anyways, speaking of Tuaru Kagaku no Accelerator, we got the exposition dump we've been waiting for. We find out who the DA is. The DA stands for Disciplinary Action, and they're a subgroup of anti-skill who goes too far in punishing kids. Apparently one of them beat a kid so bad that half his body was paralyzed. They remind me of the IRA versus the real IRA, if you know what I'm talking about. Probably not. That happened like 50 years ago. Just Google it. But without a doubt, the best part of the episode was when they were calling the guy, and the guy was like, "Allo, moshi mosh? Is it Breeder-san?" Breeder-san. Oh man, that was the best part of the episode. Apparently, Breeder-san is one of the board of directors for the school, or at least Academy City. He was using the DA as his own personal army, but now that they've gone AWOL, they need to be put down, and the way he's going to do it is he's going to contact Anti-Skill and enlist the help of their strike force, their A-team, and of course their A-team is a bunch of kids with superpowers that are also really edgy, and they're going to take down the DA. So they're going to take down this loose cannon strike force that he used as his own private army by releasing out of confinement this other loose cannon strike force, but they're official, they're on the book, so I guess it's okay to take down this other loose cannon strike force. But the loose cannon strike force, as part of Anti-Skill, doesn't care about civilian casualties by the looks of it, so I'm not sure what's the difference between the two groups. I guess one group is technically on the good guy's side, but since Accelerator and this new group, this new Anti-Skill strike force group that's out to take out the DA, they both have common goals in mind, but I doubt they're going to work together. They're probably going to have to fight each other. The DA guys are probably going to hold Misaka hostage, or the Misaka clone hostage, and then the strike force Anti-Skill guys are going to kill everyone, and an Accelerator is going to protect Misaka clone, and then there's probably going to be some kind of misunderstanding, and then they're probably going to end up having to fight each other, and hopefully Accelerator's bandages don't open. Oh yeah, in this episode, in the middle of a fight scene, Accelerator's bandages open. It's because he got shot in the forehead in the previous series, Index 2, which is really the only way to nerf his powers, because if it weren't for that kind of power check, it'd be impossible to beat him. Not to mention the fact that it's probably only going to be used in a way to kind of Deus Ex Machina Accelerator to lose, because otherwise he's pretty much unbeatable, unless you're Toma, who has the hard counter right arm. I'm just waiting for Kuroko to show up. I mean, this whole arc is about Anti-Skill, right? And Kuroko's part of Anti-Skill. I'm surprised she hasn't showed up yet. Even one of the other Misakas has shown up and been kidnapped, and yet Kuroko is still nowhere to be found. Anyways, let's talk about Fire Force now. You know Enen no Shobutai, the show where they fight fires with, even hotter fires? The new episode overall was not animated that well, but there was one scene. There was one frame of animation that just super stood out to me, and it was this picture of a fire hose, and it was just so well animated. You could see the water glistening off the metal, and the metal with its reflective surfaces. Everything about that one frame just looked so good compared to pretty much everything else in the episode, especially the courthouse scene. You look at that frame with the water glistening off the metal pipe, and then you look at the courthouse scene where the guy keeps ranting about how he's gonna kill everyone and he catches on fire, only to have all the other random characters in the background not animated at all. Even the lawyers that are front and center in the scene, they don't react at all to the guy in front of them who just caught on fire. But it's probably gonna get fixed in the Blu-ray release. I'm not too worried about it, but let's talk about the man on fire. Unlike previous Infernians, this guy is a mass murderer, and when he catches on fire, he's able to maintain some form of human consciousness, and he just wants to go out and kill a bunch of people. I mean, this was only a matter of time, because if you have like these mindless zombie fire demon things, they can't put up a good fight. They'll never strategize in such a way that would make the fight interesting, so this is just a natural progression of the plot in my opinion. I was kind of expecting this to happen eventually. The interesting thing about him, though, is that he kind of shows by proxy how important firefighters have become in the world of Enen no Shobutai, because they talk about how he is a firefighter, and it would be really unlikely for him to be sent to jail or be put to death for the crimes he's committed just because he's a firefighter. And he talks about that during his inner monologue before he catches on fire, which is a really good way to kind of get across some exposition without, dumping it on the audience by having a character spell it out for us, like in the beginning of the previous episode, where some unknown scientist guy who's probably going to be part of the main villain's crew explains how little of the Earth is actually inhabitable, and most of the pockets of humanity survive in these little enclaves across the globe, Tokyo of course being one of them. Oh, and we're also introduced to a new main character, some sexy dominatrix woman who tries to bait our main character into licking her shoes. She fails because his smile is apparently too creepy for her, and then they hand over the Infernian to the 5th Battalion. Not that much happens this episode, I guess. We kind of just find out the public animosity towards firefighters. That was probably the most impactful bit of the story. But what I really want to talk about is the fact that the church is here, but the church isn't evil. Are you sure this is anime? Because in every anime, the church is almost always evil. Like, I'm really sick of the church being evil, so thank God the church isn't evil. I applaud the writer for not making the church evil. Thank God for that. back then, making the church evil was like this new school edgelord thing you could do that would really put you on the map. That was like a new fresh edge. But nowadays, it's so overdone that if the church isn't evil, I'd be extremely surprised. But this time, it's an evil corporation, so I guess things move with the time. First it was the church, now it's an evil corporation. Overall though, I think this episode was kind of rushed. I'm not sure how many chapters they covered exactly, but the whole fight scene seems like it just happened really quickly, and then the subjugation of our main character happened also really quickly, and then they go out and just decide to help some guy out of the tree, and the guy just so happens to tell them about the dude that's being sent to trial today. It's all a little bit too perfect. Alright, that's enough of Enen no Shobutai. Let's talk about Kimetsu no Yaiba. I haven't talked about this with you for, I think, a really long time. I think the last time we talked about this was when Kibitsuji Muzan got revealed to look like Michael Jackson, like peak Michael Jackson. I'm talking Moonwalker Michael Jackson. You know, before all the scandals happened. The only issue I have with the fact that all the demons come from Kibitsuji Muzan is the fact that if he's always been in Japan, which I'm assuming this is how it works because the demon core has existed for like generations or something, that means that there are no other demons in the rest of the world and the whole demon scourge is just concentrated in Japan. I think it's a little bit of a missed opportunity that we can't see how other cultures would fight the demons, because that's really the most interesting part out of watching these like demon slaying animes. But at the same time, I can kind of understand why the writer chose to go this route, because if they introduce other cultures, it kind of dilutes what makes Kimetsu no Yaiba so good, which is the OG Japanese folklore. And if you look at the art style for the manga, and even the art style for the anime, it's really reminiscent of like the Renaissance era of Japanese art. They have those really thick black lines for the character designs. Just look no further than the way he uses his special sword slashing moves, the Mizu no Kokyu, when he does the water breathing techniques. The way the water is drawn is really reminiscent of old school Japanese art, and if they introduce other cultures, it could dilute it, so you know what, whatever, I buy it. But anyways, this week's episode 18, was actually better animated than most of the stuff that came out this week. Enen no Shobutai dropped the ball, Araburu Kisetsu no Otome-domo yo really dropped the ball. But this week's episode of Kimetsu no Yaiba has some really nice animation, especially the part where this new character shows up to save Zenitsu, who got poisoned. I thought Zenitsu's poison was gone from his body because they show that one scene where the spider who poisoned him, the clock he was holding that counted down how much time Zenitsu had left to live as a human, broke and stopped moving. I thought that symbolized the fact that the poison was no longer there, but I guess I'm mistaken because this new character has to come in and save Zenitsu, and the way she appears like in front of the moon looking like a moth because of her kimono, the way it's fluttering in the wind, that was a really well animated frame compared to pretty much everything else airing this week. And the fight scenes were also really well animated. They used some CGI, but they hid the CGI really well. I didn't notice it until I rewatched it again because I had nothing else to do on the bus. They used lighting techniques to really hide the CGI parts, and I thought that was really well done. In terms of story though, we had quite a few revelations here, in the sense that Tanjiro and Inosuke's swords break. I thought the whole point of joining the Demon Slayer company was the fact that they would get these special swords that change their color when they touch them, but then to have that whole arc kind of end by having their swords snap in half was really weird. I honestly expected the sword to give them some kind of power up, like maybe the sword would make them better at fighting demons, but it just seems like a regular sword right now. Even the whole thing about the sword changing color hasn't really done anything at all. It's still just a regular sword. Okay, maybe not Zanpakuto level of transformation from like Bleach or something, but I thought the sword would give them some kind of a power up, and it doesn't seem to have done that, which is really strange considering this is a shonen manga, and normally when they get a new weapon or they get a new tool, the new tool or something really gives them a cool power up. But you know what? I like that. I like that it didn't give them a power up, because that means that they have to rely on their skill. This is a more skill than instead of just the quality of your weapon, which is a lot of trap that a lot of shonens fall into, where they just give them really good weapons. Like, just look at Bleach, where main character has so many powers, and it's not because he's really skilled with the sword. He's not a pro swordsman. He's okay, he's decent, but he just has so many powers that he can just overwhelm his opponent. The quality of his weapon is just so much better, and I like that Kimetsu no Yaiba focuses on the skill aspect. But there's one thing nagging on the back of my mind, and it's the fact that they've added Demon Slayer fodder. So these guys, these kids pretty much, have passed the Demon Slayer exam. They've survived in demon-infested woods for 3 days minimum. And if they survived in these demon-infested woods, and we saw how hard it is to survive, how are they so bad with the sword? That one guy that appeared this episode, who shows up and he's like, oh yeah, this kid demon, I'm gonna kill him and climb up the ranks and get money. This guy should have been weeded out like at the beginning, like even in the training, the basic training is so grueling. How did this guy even make it? How did this guy even pass the exam? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Are they just churning out Demon Slayer soldiers? Did they recruit them like Uncle Sam or something? Are they drafted in? Because the training you're supposed to go through is supposed to be extremely hellish, so I'm not sure how these guys actually passed the exam. I mean, if you're doing it to show us how strong the villains are, that's cool, but maybe you could have made their personality a little bit more grounded and a little bit more soldiery so we know how strong the villain is, but you just give them these crappy personalities. These personalities are like, oh, I'm in it for the money, but if you're in it for the money, you would have given up like a long time ago. There are way better ways to make money than fighting demons, okay, and taking that exam. There is no way you would have chosen to fight demons instead of just go out and rob a bank. I'm pretty sure robbing a bank would have been so much easier and your life would have been less on the line than actually fighting demons, because if the police catch you, at least they'll throw you in jail. If the demons catch you, they'll eat you alive. Anyways, how's things going on with you? Oh, I see. Well, that kind of sucks, but it's not too bad.